So I did the thing I'm not supposed to do, which is pre-ordering games. And I do the thing that I usually don't like to do, which is buying games at full price. Of course, I'm talking about Baldur's Gate 3, which, in my defense, about the pre-ordering of the games. This is a game that has been in early access for 3 years and is stable and already has like 95% of the people that play it say that they like it. So I'm not worried about it being a pile of heaping garbage that they deliver on launch day. Especially because, like, how often do you get a company moving a release date forward, you know? Before I just spend all of my time in the Forgotten Realms, I figured I better make a video beforehand because I'm probably not going to make one when I can just play this game, because in the 2 hours of the early access I've played, it's very fun. I had to like stop myself and I'm like, you're just have to do this all over again in 2 days when the game actually comes out because it's not saving your file. I don't want to be a false prophet, but I do think that Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be one of the best games of all time. Here's why. Video games have always been about choice. It's a medium that inherently it's something that you can influence. You press buttons, you make actions, you do things, and the game is always responding to you. You jump on a Goomba, you jump over a Goomba, you jump in a pit. You're making all kinds of choices all the time. It's those choices which makes the video game fun. That's what makes games what they are those choices. It's fantastic, except when you come to story games. When you're making a game, there are a few ways you can get choices. You can get choices in the systems, like what weapon are you going to use? How are you going to jump? And they put smaller choices in there. But if your game is primarily a story-based game, in order to make there be choices, you have to create a lot of things that aren't just systems, but are scripting, dialogue, consequences, that a bunch of people aren't going to see just for the sake of there being a choice. And so a lot of games that present you with choices don't actually have that many options. Like even big role-playing games, Red Dead Redemption, Mass Effect 3 was this way. Even though they seem like they give you a lot of choices, a lot of times they just railroad you into something at the very end, because it's really hard to write and script all of those things. And so story games, in a lot of ways, never actually got the full promise of choice that video games give you in pretty much every other way. That's kind of sucked. Like, we got that a little bit with, you know, some of the great BioWare games in the past, like Knights of the Old Republic or Dragon Age Origins. You got that feeling, but they never stuck around. Even like the sequels to the Dragon Age games, they were like fine. So when I started looking into Baldur's Gate 3 and all the things that they let you do and all the choices that they let you have and all the consequences that are going to be, and that there are thousands upon thousands of different endings, the wacky stuff that you can do in combat, suddenly it started to seem like, wow, here's a game that actually gives you a considerable number of choices. Like I haven't seen in a game before. And so I think that Baldur's Gate 3, in a lot of ways, in this medium that is all about choices and consequences and actions, if they follow through on their promise, and maybe they won't, there is an unprecedented level of commitment to the choices of the player. Which means, in a lot of ways, this RPG, it'll be more video game than anything else. Because nothing else lets you have that level of choice and expression and freedom and consequences ever. I can't think of anything. Like, maybe you could say that some of those things happen in like text-based games, but most people don't play like text-based games with a lot of different options. And I played a few of those that railroaded me too, and it really ticked me off. Okay, there's one in particular that ticked me off. So I think that this could definitely be one of the best games of all time because it's created something where you get to make a ton of choices. That's another thing that was great about Breath of the Wild recently, is that they created systems where you got to make all kinds of choices. How did you want to get this Korok across the river? You could just like pick him up and carry him, and that'd be boring and lame. Or you could like strap him to a rocket and launch him. You could build a hot air balloon. And that was the best part of the game, is that you had systems that let you be part of it, and you just got to play and express yourself. And I feel like this is the first game ever that I feel like I'm going to have the freedom to play and express myself in a story-driven way that is actually going to have an effect on the world that I'm going to enjoy. I think it's going to change the landscape, and I think it's going to be really cool. But maybe I'll be back in like a week and a half and be like, well, T, you're just too optimistic and hopeful, and it railroaded you anyway. But from the stuff I played in the early access, like, I am impressed and I am excited. And so I better get this video edited before I wake up tomorrow, or there's a chance it will not get done 4 weeks, and it will not be as cool as I upload this after the fact and the spoiler is out. So, got to get to editing.